Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Variety Sports Network. This is the Next Left Turn, and we are back for the inaugural race at Iowa for the Iowa Corn 350, the fastest short track in all of NASCAR. Man, I was excited for this one. Were you?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it definitely delivered. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. There are multiple reasons I was excited for this race. First of all, it's a another short track on the whole circuit of races. It was designed by my favorite driver growing up, Rusty Wallace. He was there to do the start of the race. And you can tell a short track driver designed this track by the way it ran, but he wanted it to be fast like a super speedway. And good Lord, it is. It's 150 to 160 miles an hour around this track, very little braking. It just it, it's a really nicely designed track. You know, I know Craftsman Truck Series has ran there, Xfinity's ran there, I believe IRL has ran there, Arca's ran, so a bunch of other cars have raced there. But this was NASCAR's Cup Series first time going, and boy oh boy, did they not let down. They put on quite the show. It was a really good time. It was a good race. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I loved just like the tires imploding on certain drivers. I think there was one. What was it? Was it Allmendinger when he got his and he blew it and just hit right into it was turn two. I was like, oh boy, and I think it was who else did it too? Someone else did it, and I was like, oh gee, like don't even touch them. Just blew his tire right out, hit right into turn two. I was like, oh okay, that's what
Well,
we're doing.
we were talking about this a little bit before we hopped on. That I watched practice because I didn't know anything about Iowa. I mean, I knew it was a track. I knew Rusty Wallace designed it. I knew there'd been other racing there. That was the extent of my knowledge. So I wanted to make sure I watched practice this week. So I recorded it, watched it after we made our picks. And if I would have watched practice first, we wouldn't have made picks because in practice you had 5 guys blow tires in a 19 to 24 lap run span. So obviously Goodyear and the teams got together to figure out what was going on. Was the tire pressures too low to start? Were they too high? Was there too much camber? So it was just a lot of big conversations. So that was my big worry coming into the race was what adjustments were going to get made. Obviously, we watched qualifying, and that's 2 laps. So if you're blowing a tire in 2 laps, that's something you got set up wrong. So, I mean, I had some major concerns going into this race about what it was going to look like. Were we going to have another issue like we did earlier in the season where NASCAR had to come out and give every team another set of tires? Thankfully, Goodyear worked their butts off over 2 days, got the whole tire pressures figured out for the most part. I mean, we still saw guys shredding right front tires throughout the race, but we weren't seeing major accidents with major collisions like we saw in practice. A couple guys had to start in backup cars, Christopher Bell being one of them, who ended up having a fantastic race. Austin Cindric had to start in a backup car. I think there was somebody else I can't remember off the top of my head. So really good race. Lots of fun for the inaugural race at Iowa. They're definitely going to have to make sure this is a race on the schedule for at least the next 10 years because I think it's going to get better and better the more they run it. That asphalt down in the turns added for a change for the guys who had raced there before. And there were a handful of guys, 2 handfuls of guys who raced there via Xfinity or Truck Series racing in the past. So they had an idea of the track, but with the new asphalt in the turns, that gave them a new wrinkle for their setups and changed their expectations. But before we get into all that and break down, I don't know if you've seen this, Aaron. I'm going to show you a video of the luckiest guy in racing right now. If you haven't seen this clip, I'll be surprised.
Does he drive number 5?
No. This is not even NASCAR related.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to play this real quick. It's a real quick 9-second video. That guy right there. Luckiest man on the planet. Boom. I don't know how he doesn't get it, how he doesn't get hurt, but thank God he's all right.
Now, what is this? Well, that was just a stock car, just racing,
kind of kart racing or something. I don't know, man. I don't know what kind it was. It was. I don't know what kind of car. I have no idea. It's some kind of open wheel, little bitty open wheel car. It's not like an Indy car or an F1 car or anything. So, but if you guys hadn't seen that, I wanted to share that with you because, good Lord, that was scary. And that guy walked away unscathed, unhit, and good Lord, I see your background this week's different.
I tried to change it up. It was Kurt Busch. He was looking for a home, so he had me little Ricky Bobby. And
Little
I
Ricky
think,
Bobby right there.
yeah, and I think when he did it too, he was like, "I'm going fast" or something like that. Like he did it over his radio. So yeah, I had a little throwback to Kurt.
All right, I like it. I dig it. And then I want to ask you one more thing before we dive into the race. So, I've been trying to pay a little bit more attention to what's online about NASCAR, and I saw this clip about this guy. He said that it's one of the stupidest lines from one of the stupidest movies, and it's not about racing, or it's not real racing, and that was that rubbing is racing. And if I would have gone back and paid more, I mean, I think I was at work on lunch break, so I didn't pay attention to who the guy was. But I was like, "You are the biggest moron on the planet for multiple reasons for that statement. One, rubbing is racing. Two, that comes from one of the, well, arguably the best racing movie ever made, or at least the best stock car racing movie ever made, with one of the best actors we've ever got to see because he's done a ton of great movies. So, do you think rubbing and is racing, and do you think Days of Thunder is one of the worst movies ever made?
I think it's racing. Anything that has some sort of car, I think is racing, no matter what.
There you go.
Especially if you watch the Dale Jr. Like Lost Speedways. Like there are cars that don't even exist anymore that they use for racing. So I think anything that has a car feature is racing. And no, I think Days of Thunder is a good movie. I don't see
All
what's
right.
wrong with it. There's not a lot of racing movies, anyways. What do we
There's
have? Three for Dale Earnhardt, obviously the Ricky Bobby, but that's kind of just like whatever.
Ford versus
And Days of
Ferrari.
Thunder. Oh yeah, Ford
Days
v
of Thunder.
Ferrari. That's actually a really good one too.
That's a Ford versus Ferrari. They did a
Yeah,
great job with that
really
movie.
good one. But I think other than that, that's about it. So I don't know why people are kind of crapping on Days of Thunder.
I mean, there's a few other ones out there, but when that guy said that, I was like, "You're outside of your mind, man. Outside of your mind." But whatever. I just want to get your take on that because we have not got to talk in 2 weeks. We took a week off last week. We're not going to cover Sonoma because it was a boring race.
Ugh.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, there was a little excitement at the end. Rowdy got taken out by Chastain at the end of the race. I mean, there was a little
And
bit
the
of drama.
guy who didn't win had the biggest standing ovation than the guy that did win.
Right, right. So I mean, we're not diving into that. We're getting into this race. It was a lot of fun. We're going to start you off with a clip of the start of the race here. It was a fun start. Kyle Larson had the pole. Ryan Blaney started on the outside. So here we go.
The Cup Series is racing in Iowa.
Yeah, as I was watching this, I was like, it's definitely gonna be one of two of these guys.
See, I didn't think that at all from the get-go.
Really?
Side by side for the
Long
lead as
short
Larson
track race,
dives
man.
into three, just in front of the 12 of Ryan Blaney.
I mean, they were side by side the whole first lap. I mean, it was beautiful. My initial reaction after lap one was, this is not going to look like a normal short track race. This is going to look like a speedway race. And that's what the track's designed to do. And it did not let down in the slightest.
I mean, shout out too to Corey LaJoy. He had a pretty good race in the first stage, and then kind of like bowed out a little bit. But he got turned. I believe what was the first 20 or
He got
30
turned
laps,
in
and he kept
the
going. Like he was good to go.
fourth lap. It was the
Fourth, I
fourth
knew it
lap.
was
His
one of those.
teammate
Yeah,
spun
yeah.
him. There was a little bump from Zane Smith, got him spun around on lap 4. And
How funny though, it was 77, 71, 7.
Yeah, they were all right there. And Corey tags the wall a little bit, but doesn't do a lot of damage. He had a really good race, man. I don't care what anybody says. You tag the wall that early in the race, you got to go to the pits, you got to make some changes. And he fought and stayed up there. They played a little bit of strategy. It kept him in the race, got him some points. I mean, he had a good race. And this guy either has and it's a good race for him, not a good race for, a Hendricks Motorsports car, but he had a good race for him and a good race for his team. But that was lap 4. So we had caution early, and I was thinking right off the bat, just watching the cars go 2 and break for 3 wide off the start, I was like, oh my, this is going to be a 15-16 caution race. We're going to have lots of bumping and grinding, and we may have 15 to 18 cars left to cross the finish line. And boy, was I wrong. We did have quite a few cautions, but nothing major. We never really had a big one. We'll get to the biggest one here because it was in the second stage. We'll get to that here a little bit later. I got a clip of that to show you. Actually, I got 2, I think. It was a good race. I mean, stage 1 was Blaney and Larson just battling. Hendricks and Penske, and Stewart Haas Racing, they're bowing out at the end of the year, but they were there the entire race. Briscoe was up front at the beginning. Barry was up front in the middle. I mean, this was a really good race. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, there wasn't a ton of big accidents. There wasn't a lot of damaged cars, but we had a lot of good old school short track racing at much higher speeds than we're used to on a short track, which again, that's what this track was designed for. This is what Rusty was going for when he put this track together. It was fun. This was a fun race, and I could watch this track 2 times a year. I would like to see a day race out of this track because I'd like to see how tires go and how heat of the track changes everything. But this needs to be a night race every year from here on out. Like right now, NASCAR, hear me out. Make this a standard race every year at night, and if you can work it in somewhere else in the year to give me a spring race, or I mean, I guess you can move this race to like later in the season and then do a spring race during the day and a night race in the fall. That'd be cool too, or late summer. That's my vote right now because I thought this was a great race. It was a lot of fun. So like we said, Corey LaJoie gets help from his teammate, gets spun on lap 4. That throws the first caution. Nothing really happens there. We get a restart. It's Larson and Blaney still up front. It's a lot of good side-by-side racing, but Larson jumps out and pulls out and gets the lead real quick. And that's really all that happens. I mean, there's a ton of passing going on back and forth. We saw I've never seen this much side-by-side racing and 3 wide racing around a track on a short track before that I can recall. Can you?
Just trying to think.
I mean, we see a lot of side-by-side at Bristol and Martinsville and tracks like that, but 3 wide, the way they were going 3 wide, I mean, you just saw it on the start. They jumped out and spread out, and they could have gone 4 wide, and they had space to go 5 wide if they really wanted to, which obviously would have been absolute chaos would have ensued there. But it was there though. It was set up for just tons of excitement. So we get some running. This first stage was 70 laps. The second and third stage were each 120. Again, take my note, NASCAR on the stages. 70 was good for the first. Probably could have gone 100 for the second and then left the rest of the laps for stage 3. That would have made it a little more interesting, especially with the way this race ended up working out with the strategy that was played by the teams. But
I feel like they had a lot of green flag pits too. In this.
There was. You had to with the tire situation because fuel, they could go 100 to 110 laps on a tank of fuel here. So you only needed 3 stops for fuel. But tires, like I said, from the practice, they were thinking, 20, 25, 30 laps. And then they made the adjustments in Goodyear and they pushed these tires out to 70, 80 laps, which that was the original hope for this tire was it was tires when you got fuel. That was what it was supposed to be. And that was the hope setup. And it didn't quite work out that way, but they got there by the end of the race. So we're still at stage 1. We're getting to the end of stage 1. It's about lap 52, 50, 51, 52. AJ Allmendinger tags the wall. That right front tire blows, boom, just like in practice. He hits the wall, caution comes out. His day is done at that point, just too much damage on the front end. And you see all the leaders come down pit road, but at this point in the race, Brad Keselowski and Daniel Suarez have struggled, so they play the strategy game knowing that there's only about 20 laps left in the stage to race, and they stay out. So, I mean, that to me was a smart strategy. Smart strategy, obviously, with fuel, but with the tires, I thought they were pushing it. I mean, you knew you were going to have 5 or 6 laps there for a caution. It was early in the race, in my opinion, to take that gamble. What do you think?
I mean, they did so good that Daniel Suarez finished in the top 5. Well, top 3, I guess. I think he finished 3rd in that stage, so I guess it worked out for him. But Keselowski, did he finish 10th or in the top 10? I think he was one of those.
He finished in the top 10.
Well, I mean, it worked out for him. He got points out of it.
No, so I mean, it definitely worked. But
it was a good strategy, I guess.
I mean, Allmendinger had just blown a right front. We knew that right fronts were an issue. I figured everybody was coming in to be safe to at least take right side tires to get into the stage, but they didn't. They stayed out. The strategy worked out for them. So we get the green flag drops. Larson goes 3 wide with Keselowski and Suarez to start. So I'm thinking, oh God, here we go. We're going to accident back to back. That's going to end the stage. They get through it. Blaney follows Larson and they continue on their happy way. With about 10 laps left in the stage, Blaney is working on Larson and he gets to the outside of him. And then he drives deep into the corner and Blaney gets a little bit of gets a little bit of a shake and a little bit of a wiggle in the corner, but he kept the pedal down, and that kept him from turning or spinning out. I don't know how it worked out, but it did. Blaney definitely showed some pizzazz, and he put it all out there this week because he knew he needed a win. He hasn't won yet. He wasn't in the playoffs as of the start of this race, and he was racing for points, and he needed them. But he pulls out, gets out in front of Larson and takes off a little bit, gives him a gap, and he ends up winning stage one. So stage one results were Ryan Blaney, then Kyle Larson. Suarez did get third, like you mentioned. William Byron fourth, Josh Berry fifth, Joey Logano was in sixth, Corey LaJoy got seventh there, and this was after he had a wreck early in stage one. So like I said, he had a good race for him. Brad Keselowski eighth, your boy Chase Elliott got ninth there, and then Kyle Busch was in 10th. Kyle Busch looked strong in this race. Looked like the car
is the key word.
Well, it sounds like it wasn't really his fault, but I'm not saying he had a car that was going to win this race. Oh, Rowdy brings it on himself sometimes. But like I said, he didn't look like he had a car to win, but he definitely looked like he had a top 7 to top 10 car, and it's him. So he's a good driver. So I thought he was going to be there at the end of the race. But again, everything I thought before the race was very skeptical at this point because of the tire issue and other things that were contributing. Again, new track. We don't know how the track's going to turn. We're going from the heat of the day and sunshine on the track to nighttime with shade, and the track cools down. And what's going to happen is the car's going to get tighter. They're going to get looser. Is the track going to get slicker? They're going to get more grip. We always assume that the speed's going to pick up when it cools down a little bit. So there were a lot of questions at this point rolling into stage 2 and what was going to happen through stage 2.
What wasn't a question though was that Josh Berry definitely had the right car today because his sponsor was Overstock, and since we talked about Stuart Haas, discombobulating at the end of the year, his stock rising, especially this whole entire race. That definitely was perfect for his sponsor this week.
If I was Josh Berry, I would not sign with the team until the season's over, because there are going to be other drivers moving at the end of the season. We've already seen like Stenhouse Jr. got an extension. Michael McDowell's moving. We know obviously Stuart Haas is losing those 4 charters. Who's going to pick up those 4 charters? Martin Truex Jr. is retiring at the end of the year. Oh, I didn't put that in the notes. I'm so sorry. That should be on the bottom of the screen. If you guys didn't know, Martin Truex Jr. is going to be retiring from Joe Gibbs Racing at the end of the 2024 season. He says he still will be involved in NASCAR. We just don't know to what extent. And Denny Hamlin has already offered him a ride anytime he wants to come back and race. So all he's got to do is tell him he wants to race the 500, and Hamlin will get him a car with 2311.
He'll pull a Jimmy Johnson.
Oh, I'm sure, but
he'll do stuff like that.
As long as he doesn't go drive for a junk team like Johnson does, and he's competitive, I don't mind. It bothers the hell out of me that Jimmy Johnson, one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time, it runs for legacy. Obviously, I know he's part of the ownership group or whatever, but they cannot give him a car that's competitive and even put him in races to win. He's just there as a novelty, and that bothers me. Like, if you're going to be there, go out there and compete.
Yeah.
Like, he never has a car that can compete. And I don't know if I can't blame him because we know he's got it in him. So you got to blame the team, and you got to blame the guys who set up the car. That was a good side note, I think, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with Truex Jr. Johnny Morris was even at the retirement announcement. I think he was there this weekend for the race. Johnny Morris, if you don't know, is Bass Pro Shops. He's been with Truex Jr. basically his entire career in NASCAR. So, and yes, Bass Pro is also on an SHR car, so I'm sure he's out there scouting to see who else he can put Bass Pro with next year. Wouldn't surprise me if it's Josh Berry wherever he ends up. I
think Dale Jr. was talking about that. He said that would be a perfect spot for Josh Berry.
Well, I think, man, this is a conversation for the offseason. I got hopes and I got feelings, and I've heard rumors about Dale Earnhardt Jr. that I want to discuss.
Oh.
Well, he's got the 8-back, or he's going to get the 8-back now.
Yep.
As of yesterday, DEI lost it, so we know what is this thing? DJR is going to get it. Anyways, lots of little extra information there at the end of stage 1. Let me see what video clips I have for us here, because I'm sure I have something since we didn't just go about it. Okay, so we talked about the spin around for Corey LaJoy to start the race. I've got that here. We'll give you guys a quick little look at what that one looked like. Sorry, I did in this way out of order.
Wide
We got
back
distracted.
here.
Wow. The 71, Zane Smith, looked like he was really loose on corner entry. The 7 was above him.
He just kissed the wall. Just
I
kissed.
think it was a
Oh,
three-car, all-Spire car involved incident. The 77 got loose, caught the 71.
Those are your lucky numbers, folks. Any sevens
That
this
is
week,
not
go play
what
them.
the Spire Motorsports organization wants to see.
For your pick
It's
three,
nerve-wracking enough
absolutely.
with all three cars on the racetrack.
That's just something you don't see every day. You see a teammate get loose, bump a teammate, and then that teammate that got bumped takes out another teammate. Yeah, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then I want to get back to, this is the other one I had that I missed out on at the end of stage one. This is Ryan Blaney taking the lead back from Kyle Larson. I mean, I don't know, they didn't obviously make an adjustment, but this is when I knew Blaney had the good car and that he could run on the
Gibbs
longer
and that
run.
Monster Energy on board.
He
Now a
just
fight
flies
for the
by him.
lead. Here comes Blaney again.
He rolled the top of 1 and 2 and jumped out on that quarter panel of the 5 car. Almost surprised him on corner exit. Good adjustments on the 12 car.
And the wiggle.
Big slide.
Gibbs.
And unfortunately, that clip's not longer where you actually see Blaney's like a car and a half, 2 car lengths behind Larson before that clip starts. And he is just plowing through. And that's why I meant he was just going by him. Obviously, Larson stayed side by side through the turn, but Blaney had it coming out of that turn. So back on to stage 2. Green flag drops. Larson clears Blaney right off the bat for the start stage 2, and he takes off. Blaney stays in second, and we get to like, I don't know, we're 7, 8 laps later, and Nemechek ends up turning Noah Gragson, and this brings out a caution. And I was a little disappointed they threw the flag on this one.
Yes, I was about to say that.
I mean, yeah, John Hunter spun Gragson, but Gragson never hit the wall, kept control of the car, and kept pace. He got completely sideways. I mean, when I say kept pace, I mean he never stopped. I mean, he was still,
and no one
once
hit him,
he got going, and nobody hit him, he was right on the back of everybody else. I do have a clip of that to show us real quick here too. And I'm tired of going out of order. That's why I want to make sure I get you guys in here. We'll watch this. You'll see the turn. It's nothing crazy.
Right here, 3 wide on the bottom.
Here it is, right here.
To John Hunter. Yep. Check.
There's just been watch. He pushes
goes
it.
the 10 of Noah Gregson and keeps it
Such
straight.
grace.
But the caution does come out.
That was an excellent save, an absolutely excellent save by Noah Gregson. He's looking for a ride too, man. Another SHR car looking for a ride. He has been driving really, really strong the past few weeks. He is making a case. He is doing job interviews right now. And I know he's got a bad rap from his history and some of the things that have happened. He has, from what I understand, made penance for those. And he looks like he's bouncing back and he's developing and growing. And I think he'll find a ride next year. I don't see nobody picking him up. Oh, I don't see anybody not picking him up. There you go. What do you think?
Yeah, if there's only like one driver, I think for Stewart Haas, I think won't get picked up, and it's I can't even think of it right now. What's his face? I don't think it's Austin Sin. There, I'll think of it.
All right, that's fine. Austin Cindric's Penske. He could lose his ride at the end of the year, and if he loses his ride, I expect Briscoe or Barry to end up in Penske. But Cindric's daddy is also like one of the top execs with Penske. So
Chase Briscoe, I think.
You don't think he'll get a ride?
Might be like last minute. Someone will pick him up. I think he needs to start, finish stronger, I guess, near the end of the season, I think, for someone to pick him up.
Okay, fair enough. So that caution happens. Larson pits from the lead, and it was kind of weird because they had just come down pit lane. So Carson Hosfar wasn't even a factor in this story. Larson runs down pit road, and they think he's having a tire issue. They get that taken care of. I actually never heard what it was, but
I think it was tire. I think it was also the front left driver's side, which was bothering most of the drivers today. I'm glad that you brought that up though, because that dude was straight dominating once he got his new tire. Went from he
Yeah.
was at what 25th at one point, and then in like a 5-minute span, he went up 12 spots, 13 spots, eventually 18 spots. Like he was running top 5, I think, in what, like 15, 20 minutes? Not even.
Yeah, it was like
Like
30
he was
laps. And he was already
hauling.
back in front. He had arguably the best car today. The one guy I'd say who I thought had a better car was Christopher Bell. And that was Christopher Bell because he had to start at the very back of the field, and he ended up in the top 5 finish today. So, I mean, the dude worked all the way through the field. He was a 10th of a second faster than the leaders at the end of the race. He had a great race. I think he had the best car. But Larson looked HMS just looked dominant again today. The whole team did. But so like Aaron mentioned, Larson runs down. He drives his way all the way back through the field. And this is where we get to like lap 115, 117, somewhere around there. Michael McDowell ends up blowing his right front. He tags the wall just a little bit. No caution flag here. And this is where the caution flags for me got inconsistent. We got one for Gregson, but we didn't get one for McDowell. That was the start of it where I was like, well, that's a little odd. Like, that's just not, it's inconsistent. But that's Michael McDowell's first flat tire of the day. He has another flat right later in the race, very close to the end. But yeah, he pits under green, gets back out on the race. Like 15 laps later, Zane Smith blows a right front. Doesn't hit the wall. No caution. He had to cut all the way down in front of the whole field on that one. Again, it's just more good racing. Larson's just dominating out front. They're working through traffic. Blaney's up there. Barry's up there. I mean, it's just good short track racing. No major accidents. Guys are getting in trouble, but they're getting on pit lane, which isn't disrupting the race, we'll call it. And then we get some green flag pit stops here around lap 165, 164. They start. And Martin Truex comes down lap 170, and he ends up speeding onto pit lane, ends up having to come back through and do a drive-through penalty. And at this point, Blaney has the lead. He pits, and now we have the full-fledged green flags are underway because it was kind of spotty at that 165 mark. We had a couple cars come in, not a lot, but Blaney comes in, and then that starts the entire cycle. And then 3 laps later, Eric Jones blows a tire and hits the wall, and no caution again. So now I'm completely convinced. First time there, they don't know how they're going to call this race, what they're going to let them get away with and what they're not. I don't think a caution needed to be called by any means. Again, this just goes back to the inconsistency. There definitely didn't need to be a caution when Graskin got spun. And maybe that was their correction. They saw if the guys could get off the track, there wasn't any debris on the track, so they didn't need to call another caution. Obviously, this played some strategy, obviously, without having more caution pit stops for the teams and the crews to come in and make adjustments. Do you think that had any what's the best way to say that? Man, you can't even finish my sentence. Any long-term effect? Yeah,
you kind of went a little in and out, so I was just like waiting for you to kind of finish the sentence before I started.
I mean, because they weren't calling those cautions, do you think that had a long-term effect on the race or how the race ended up?
I don't think so. Okay. I think everything kind of like fell into place. I think we got did we get? I don't think we got any more cautions in that race. I could be wrong though. Did we?
Yeah, because right after Eric Jones blows the tire, it's like, I don't know, 7-8 laps later. Daniel Hemrick brushes the wall and their caution gets thrown.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So I think that was because I did feel like this was not a lot of caution, like middle of second stage to the end to the very end. So I forgot about that happened. But no, I still think everything was pretty much fine. Like I said, they did a lot of green flag pits anyways, so yeah, everything kind of just balanced itself out.
No, Logan, this is not that part of the show, and I know you put this up earlier. I just missed it. Sorry, buddy. You can ask anything racing, my friend. We can talk hockey later.
For real.
Good evening, CP. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the comments. Good to see you here. Hope you're doing well. You have a great show out there, by the way. So, CP, when they go to Watkins Glen, if you want to come on, just shoot us a message. I'd be happy to have some, East Coast influence. But
Yeah.
so that caution comes out from Hemrick, Keselowski, Wallace, and your pick, Bubba Wallace. Haven't pit yet. They end up going to pit lane. At this point, things are cycling through. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. ends up front. Now, here's the funny part about Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Oh God, that was so funny.
He's won at Iowa 3 times in the
Yep.
Xfinity Series. So he was kind of like one of those dark horse guys. I thought that was like, this guy might be able to pull this off today, and he needs a win. And he just signed that extension. This would be a good way to do it. I was just hoping he could bump Busch out of the way up front for the win at the end, if that's how it was going to go. So we'd see some more pit road fireworks after the race.
Oh no, was it Ross Chastain was in front of Kyle Busch today. And I thought something was going to happen right there, but nothing.
Well, deservedly so after last week in Sonoma. But nothing ever happened. Rowdy kept it clean. But the green flag drops with Stenhouse up front. Byron's on his side, and Byron misses the bottom of the track and ends up clipping Stenhouse Jr.'s left rear a little bit. They both end up wide, and then Larson just goes by him and takes the lead.
And you forget too with William Byron, he kind of swerved a little and then dropped to 11th.
Yeah, that was right after.
Again, very I want to say articulate, but it's definitely not the word. But great skills right there, because he could have easily went right to the wall because of how he turned and swerved. But I was a little surprised that Denny Hamlin and Truex went too fast into the pit. Very experienced drivers, and they got the penalty for that. That was a little weird.
First time in the track.
Yeah,
I don't think those two guys ever raced in Xfinity or in the Truck Series. I think those are two guys that never have been to the track before. Much like Joey Logano never been to the track, and a bunch of other guys. So I think that played a part into it, where they were rookies at Iowa. So things happen. Kyle Larson had that issue when he ran in the Indy 500, didn't he? He hit pit lane too fast at one point.
Yeah, he's done it before.
He said it was difficult figuring out the pit road speed. Anyways, back to Kyle Larson. This is how he wins stage 2, because there were barely any laps left at this point. So our stage 2 results were Kyle Larson in first, Josh Berry up there in second, your boy Chase Elliott in third, Ryan Blaney was fourth, your pick, Bubba Wallace, was in fifth at this point, Denny Hamlin in sixth, Chris Buescher was in seventh, Todd Gilliland, again, up there for stage points. He seems like he does it every week or every other week. He gets up there and gets some stage points. Got 8th. Brad Keselowski was in 9th. And Justin Haley, having another strong race, was in 10th and got some stage points there.
And again, shout out to Josh Berry, man. He was holding off Chase Elliott for most of the end of the second stage. I think it was with 20 laps left. He was holding Chase Elliott to his own. So kudos to that.
I mean, he had such a good race. He really did. SHR gave him a good car for a good showing, and he's making the most out of what he has to work with right now. But we're 210 laps in of 350. We got 140 left for stage 3. That can't be right. I thought it was 120, 120. Anyways, we're going to stage 3.
144 left, or... It was weird because it was they said 144, but it was they're a lap behind or something.
It always looks like that.
Yeah, they were messing up or something. I don't know.
Anyways, we're gonna start stage 3 here, and Larson ends up getting the lead off of pit lane. Keselowski only takes 2 tires and actually wins. Larson took the field to the pit lane. Keselowski takes 2 tires and actually wins the race off pit road. Buescher and Gilliland stayed out. And this was the one I didn't understand. It's a stage break. You know you're going to have to get fuel somewhere at some point, and you need tires. They took the risk, probably hoping for a caution where they get to come in a little bit early and save the positioning on the track. Didn't work out that way for them, unfortunately. But they took a risk. They took a gamble, and that's been a lot. We've seen that a lot this year in NASCAR. Going into stage 3, it seems like every week somebody's taking a gamble. Somebody's taking a risk, and they're hoping it pays off. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. We saw some gambles later in this race as well. But the green flag drops on stage 3, and Busher gets out there and takes the lead at the start of the stage. Busher's had a really tough season. He had the 2 bad beats in a row. He's been up front a lot, but he hasn't ended up being able to finish the job at all this year to lock in his playoff spot. He's sitting out. Now he's just inside the playoff picture by like 6 points. So, I was kind of pulling for him a little bit. I like RFK. I was a Keselowski fan for a long time when he drove with Penske, so I do want to see them do well, but it just wasn't going to work out for him today. Now, it's not long after the restart. I think it's like 2 laps after the restart, actually. And we get the big one. And the big one wasn't even that big. It just had big ramifications this week. So basically, guys get a little squirrely. They get 3. They're pushing 4 wide. Suarez gets a little loose, ends up sliding into Larson. Larson ends up sliding up, gets in the side of Hamilton, and wrecks both of their cars, and the caution comes out. I got a couple clips for this one. I have the in-car, so I have it like we're watching the race, and then you guys know I love those in-car cameras when I can get them, so I do have it. Let me get this teed up here for you. Like I said, this is going to be Larson getting pushed out by Suarez. It wasn't intentional. I can tell you that much just by watching it 2 and 3 times. This wasn't like he was taking him out of the race. He got loose. He got loose, and this happens. And when you get wide race, and you can see this, we got 1, 2, 3, and we're pushing 4 wide. We got 1, 2 here, another one here. We're pushing 3 to 4 wide through this whole turn here. But here's the spectator's view.
Now, so only 19 cars in the lead.
Big contact, the 5 into the wall, and around he goes. Got collected with the 11, and the caution comes back out. Aggressive racing there coming off of 4.
Yeah, that was literally the biggest highlight of the.
And Larson was in the middle of 3 wide. As
he spins it around and gets
see if
going.
he can get back.
Look at the donut on Hamlin's car. So as you can see here, they're 3 wide. He just got loose. It's not like he checked up.
Suarez hit him on the right rear.
And like I said in the messages earlier, there's a lot of chippiness. Loved it. Doesn't matter who the driver was. Very chippy.
It was a very chippy race. It was very old school short track.
He got loose. When he got loose, he had to turn to the car to the right.
So there was that one. I want to give it to you guys from inside the cars. This is inside of Larson's car and inside of Denny Hamlin's car. Let me pull this up here for you guys, and we will watch this. Here we go. You see, not heavy damage there, but just enough to mess the car up and take him out of intention to win the race.
Yeah, and to be down 35 laps.
Yeah. He was lucky enough. He was fast enough that they didn't get thrown out and they could be competitive. They were able to fix the car and keep up their speed. That was super, super important. But like I said, it took him out of the race. It eliminated one of the HMS drivers from winning again, which is always nice.
It is good to talk about when, the two specific groups don't win. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, this was, man, it's been such a weird season with Gibbs and the HMS just dominating, just absolutely dominating NASCAR this year. I mean, it's great to see teams have dominance and that they putting everything together, but I mean, it's frustrating. It makes it difficult as a fan or somebody who's becoming a fan to just be like, okay, this is like watching LeBron in the regular season. He's just going to put up points and be up top every year, or watching the Dodgers every year win 115 games. It gets old. And in racing, I look for it to not get old and to stay somewhat crisp and exciting from time to time. I mean, I know you're going to have boring races here and there, but seeing the same team win over and over and over again it's depressing. So
it's just a little.
As much respect as I have for Kyle Larson and the things he's done this year and what he's doing with his career, I don't ever want to see him out of a race in that situation. I would just like to see him have a bad car one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was like game changing because, like we've talked about all show, Larson's car was dominant. The car was set up. It's Larson. Larson doing Larson things. One of the best drivers in the world. But this opened up the race for other things to happen. And when we restarted after this caution, it's Barry and Busher are up front. And you're like, great, these two guys who need wins. One guy's doing job auditioning right now. The other guy just had bad luck. They're out there and they were running a good race. They were setting a pace and they were keeping a fairly good gap between them and the rest of the field. I mean, at this point, did you think Barry had it? Like, did you think he had a chance? Or Busher?
I thought Barry was gonna finish maybe like top 3, top 5. I didn't think he was gonna win it, but again, his cars definitely represented him today with overstock, just because his stock, like I said earlier, is rising. But I thought he was gonna finish top 3 or 5. He just had that good of a car. I didn't think he was gonna win it, but I definitely thought he was gonna finish pretty strong today for sure.
Fair enough. I like that cut. I mean, I thought Barry for sure. I was like, oh, this boy's got a chance. I really thought he had a chance to win the race at this point. But Barry and Busher running good, clean racing. They're going at it back and forth. And about lap 230, Barry pushes by Busher and he completes the pass and he holds him off. Like I said, they were kind of back and forth for a few laps, and then Barry finally got by him. And with like 90 laps left, Busher blows a tire, hits the wall. Caution. This is 91 laps left. This is where all the strategy for this race came into play, and things got very, very interesting. Barry leads the cars down pit lane, and everybody at this point knows this is where you're going to get your fuel. We can stop for fuel now, and we don't have to stop again. And I thought everybody was going to take 4 tires. I didn't see anybody risking the 2-tire game with the way the tires have been running. But Blaney takes 2. Logano takes 2 as a team. Stenhouse Jr. takes 2. I mean, it's on like Donkey Kong. Blaney ends up getting out of the pits first. Because he took the 2 tires, and it's him and Logano to restart after the caution flag. Now, Blaney had such a strong first run, and he wasn't running bad in stage 2, and he had run well at this point in stage 3 as well, but he was back in the field a little bit, and he wasn't working his way up through the traffic. So I was like, probably not going to happen. And I took Logano this week to win because Logano's history of winning at tracks for the first time is just ridiculous. And so I always thought there was a chance. Penske does a good job setting those guys up. But Blaney definitely had the better car of the two. And Logano foolishly after the race said he thought he could keep up with Blaney. He thought he was there.
No.
He said he just messed up the restart here. He thought him and Blaney could have ran it to the end. No, he screwed up the restart. He lost himself like 5 spots right off the bat, and then he hung tough the rest of the race. So I think he could have. He was on pace. I mean, at the end of the race, he finished 7 seconds behind, but that's a lot of lap traffic they had to go through.
I think the closest was probably Chase Elliott. I'm not just saying because I am a Chase Elliott fan, but he had a pretty strong car too the entire race. I think he had one of the fastest pits today where it was like at least 9.5, which is, I believe, his career high so far with the pits. But he was just once he was like 11th in like the first stage, he kind of just stayed in the top 10 throughout the rest of the race. Obviously in the top 3, and even when he pit, he would come back up to like 8 or 10. And I don't know, they were even saying it too on the broadcast. He was just having like a very good, strong car, weaving around, getting past certain drivers, and staying in that like dominant top 5 from second stage on.
Well, he's the only racer in the Cup Series this year that has not had a finish below 20th.
Yes. I believe they said I didn't even realize that he had 7 out of the last 11 races where he's top 5.
Yeah. I mean, he has been, I've said all season long, Blaney quietly works his way up. Elliott has with a silencer on him. Been working his
I-
way through the field all year.
Honestly, if I showed the text message I sent to my friend in the beginning of the season when he acted like he was just there, I was like, wow, he just because he got the one championship, he's just giving up now. Like he's just happy to be on Hendrick, but foot in my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely there with a vengeance. He's got something left to prove. But we go racing, and like I said, it's Blaney and Logano were up front to start with 2 tires, and Logano botches the restart and falls right off the bat. Blaney doesn't; he takes off, and with what was it? It was like 80 laps left. I think it was like 80 laps left. Kyle Busch ends up heading to pit lane during a green because he thinks he's got a flat tire. Well, it's not a flat tire. It's a part in the car is broke. So they send him back out.
Sparks kind of prove it.
Well, yeah, but they changed the tire. They changed the tires on him, send him back out there. The car still wouldn't run, right? So he pulls back down pit lane. They send him back to the garage. I believe they said it was a tie rod or something. They end up going to the garage because he's got speed. They fix it. They go send him back out on the track. And then it was a brake line or a transmission fluid. Some line on the car blew, and they just said, we're done. They packed it up and they called it a day. He couldn't get back out there at that point. So some bad luck for Kyle Busch today. He avoided the big wreck, even though he was right by it. He avoided a smaller wreck earlier in the race that he was right by, but he had a tough end of the day. And at this point, like I said, we're down to about 80 laps left. We get some good racing. Blaney's working his way around the track. William Byron is trying to chase him down at this point. And it's getting to be a good race. But with 44 laps left, 44, 45.
Yeah.
Blaney is carrying like an 0.8 of a second to a 1 second lead over Byron the whole time. And this goes back to Blaney only took 2 tires. He took right side tires, and Byron took 4. And yeah, what did I say? 2?
No, I put dose because you're right. He only has 2.
Oh, okay. I was like, hold
yeah,
on.
no, the Hendrick boys had 4. I think the only people that had 2 tires, well, at that point too, what they showed on that screen, I think it was like him, Truex, Logano,
and the Stenhouse Jr.
Yeah, Stenhouse Jr. I really thought the Hendrick boys were going to take him because it looked like they were. Sure. They're like, because he was in that red and it was like 91. Theirs was 43, and I was like, and I thought my pick Bubba was the same thing. He had 43 and all 4 tires. I thought he was going to climb up the ranks. Nope, Ryan Blaney, I think, passed him at one point, right? Near the end, I saw his 23 car right in front of Blaney, and he was a lap down. I was like, oh.
If Bubba would have won with that wrap scheme, I don't know what I would have done. Like, if they had the Hamburglar car and they had the Grimace
Reddick.
car. If either one of those 2 cars would have won, Ronald McDonald would have had to hop out in victory lane for the pictures. If he didn't, it would have been an absolute wasted opportunity by McDonald's for marketing. But the graphic you were talking about where they were showing how many laps were on the tires, at this point, I'm sitting there going, he ain't gonna do it. He's got those fresh rights, but that left is going to give away. I'm thinking the left rear is going to give away because we saw that happen in practice too. So, I mean, they just keep running. Blaney's working through traffic. Byron's working through traffic. Chase Elliott's pushing Byron through traffic. I mean, it's just going. And while all this is going on, Christopher Bell, who all race long has been quiet, is just working his way through the field. Just working his way, and he's top 10, top 7. Oh, all of a sudden he's top 5. And Stenhouse Jr. and Logano are sitting there with only the 2 tire change, and they've got to be sweating it because they're working through traffic as well. But Logano said in his interview after the race that, after that start, they kind of figured everything out, and the car was running just fine. They weren't losing lap time. And that was the cool thing about this racetrack, that even on older tires, there wasn't a big time difference. You were talking 0.6 to 0.8 of a second difference between the old tires and the fresh tires. So that's something that they're going to keep in the notes for next year's race, I'm sure. But again, Blaney's working traffic. Byron and Elliott are the only 2 racers at this point who have a chance to catch Blaney. Blaney's got to be worried about the tires. And the traffic, he's hitting heavy traffic at 15 laps left. and he's got a 1 second lead over Byron, and then it stretches to 1.2, and then it's down to 7/10, and then it's back up to 1 second. I mean, this was every 2 laps, the gap was changing because of the amount of traffic they were running through. Got to give credit to the other racers who were going a lap down. They stayed out of the way and they let the race carry on. They didn't try to hold up the leaders. That could have been a major issue for Blaney or for Byron and Elliott as well. I mean, if you get that hold up there, I mean, that's an accident waiting to happen. And then it shouldn't happen. That's going to cause some heat in the pits afterwards, I'm sure. But with 5 laps to go, Byron is closing on Blaney. I mean, he's got it down to a half second. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, he's shaving 1/10 of a second every 3/4 of a lap. He can get there. And I do not know what happened to Byron. I didn't see it because they were really focused in on Blaney at that point. But he fell off and it stretched back out to like 0.8 of a second. At that point, I was like, Blaney's got it as long as he survives the tires. If the tires survive and he doesn't run out of fuel like he did at WWT, he's got the W. That's where I was at that point. Did you still think Byron could have caught him, or were you pretty much just in the same spot I was, waiting to see if Blaney's car would fail out or make it?
Yeah, I was going with pretty much you, just because, again, you like exactly how you said, they weren't really focused on Byron. And then when, like you said, there was the 5 laps, like he was kind of on him, and all of a sudden, just like he fell back, like backish. It was kind of weird. And yeah, I really thought he was gonna blow his tires or blow a tire or something to make it like so dramatic at the end. But maybe this is a strategy to do it, because most of the guys who did that, they all finished in like the top 10.
Right, and it's absolutely insane. The win was fantastic for Blaney, at least. Disappointing finish for Byron. I mean, Byron even said on the radio that he had a better car.
Yeah,
He thought for sure he was going to catch him because of the tires, because he thought he had a better car. Turns out he didn't. Ryan Blaney does end up winning the inaugural Iowa Corn 350. And I got one last clip to show us on this one here, and this is the last lap.
He's shown speed. He's shown dominance at other racetracks. And now he's showing that he can get to victory lane at Iowa Speedway. He's the first Cup winner. Ryan Blaney wins in Iowa.
Byron's right there. Nobody in front of him. I really thought he had a chance.
Job, guys.
I think he said in his post game too, if he had like two or three more laps, he would have had him.
I think it would have caught him. I don't know if he would have been able to pass him. But that was the end of the inaugural Iowa Corn 350 Run Ethanol race. It was fantastic. Let's give you the breakdown here. Like you said, Ryan Blaney ends up winning the race. William Byron finished in second. Chase Elliott has a nice, strong finish in third. Christopher Bell, that silent assassin who worked his way through the field all race from the very back of the field, finishes fourth. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets a top 5. Joey Logano, sixth. So the 2 tires paid off. Those guys stretched 2 tires for like, I don't know, what was it, 91 laps?
Yep.
So, yeah, it was like 91 laps. They made those 2 right side tires last. Josh Berry ended up with 7th. Alex Bowman, 8th. Daniel Suarez finishes 9th. Brad Keselowski gets 10th. He needed that one. Yeah, he's got a win, so he's in the playoffs, but they still need the points. Watermelon Man, Ross Chastain gets 11th. Todd Gilliland, another good finish for him, top 20. Top 15 even. So 12th place finish for him. Justin Haley had a career day for him, finished 13th. Carson Hocevar, didn't hear his name at all race, ends up finishing 14th. Truex Jr. finishes 15th. Gragson, after his accident, ends up finishing 16th. Your boy Bubba got 17th. Busher 18th. Austin Dillon, a top 20 for him at 19th. Harrison Burton 20th. Corey LaJoie ends up 21st. Tyler Reddick 22nd. Michael McDowell, after 2 flat tires, finishes 23rd. Denny Hamlin, 24th. I think that's his worst finish of the season, or nearly the worst finish for him.
Well, I thought he had 2 did not finishes this year.
Maybe he did. My fault. John Hunter
blew out Sonoma.
There you go. That's true. Ryan Priest, 27th. Chase Briscoe, 28th. Hemrick, 29th. Cindric, disappointing, 30th. Zane Smith, 31st. Eric Jones, 32nd. Kaz Gralla, 33rd. Kyle Larson, 34th. Kyle Busch, 35th. And AJ Allmendinger, 36th. The 2 Kyles finished next to each other at the back of the field.
And I just thought about this too. I don't know what happened with Bubba too, because he was 11th at one point, and then he dropped to 17th with like a drop of the hats, and they didn't show him. So I was just like curious, what exactly happened with that car? Like he dropped down 6 spots like real fast.
He just kind of fell apart, man.
But that's why I picked him though, because he's won at Iowa in the Xfinity. I was like, all right, like that'll
This
help.
is racing with the big boys, man. He's not a bully
Excuse
here.
me.
He's not a bully up here. He was a bully when he was in Xfinity.
True that.
And not in a bad, and I don't mean in a bad way. I just meant he was one of the better racers in Xfinity,
Yeah.
and he's not top tier up here. He's with arguably, I wouldn't say his team's top tier, but a
It's
second
just like
tier
middle
team.
of the pack type thing.
I'd say they're above middle of the pack.
Mm.
They're
Doesn't really
there almost
show.
every week. They just can't finish. 2311's there. They've gotten a win. They're on their way. Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin are the owners. I mean, that team's gonna be a great team. I don't know if Bubba Wallace is the right driver for that team, but Bubba Wallace has come a long way in the last few years in his career. So
that's why I'm surprised you said that, because I feel like he's better with the 23 than he was the 43.
Yeah. I just think he needs a different team.
Any ideas where you think he might go?
He needs to be in a Chevy.
Interesting.
I don't think he does anything in a Ford because he already blames everything on the cars and his team. So he needs to be in a Chevy. Just like if Hendricks would pick him up and he couldn't do anything, then he'd have nobody to complain about. I don't see Hendricks picking them up. Maybe he goes to Richard Childress when Rowdy leaves.
Oh yeah, I mean that could be a good option for him because he's not liking it over there. That's for sure.
And he just runs his mouth too much.
Yeah, and if he does go to Hendrick though, whose spot would he take over?
I don't know. No idea.
Because I feel like they're all like strong racers in their own sense. Like I didn't even realize Alex Bowman had. Well, I did realize, but I didn't realize that he had 4 top 5 finishes already when he had that all of last year.
Yeah, he's having a great year. Quietly having a great year. I don't know where he goes. And I don't know even if he's even going to move. But I would say RCR would probably be the best bet for him to get a clean slate and drive for a good competitive team, maybe even Trackhouse.
Yeah, and anyone that watched this in the rerun, put it down in the comments where you think he might go.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. I'd love to hear other people's outlooks. And I'm not saying he's going anywhere. I'm not trying to break any news. I'm just saying if there was a change, where would he go? So like I said, Blaney ends up winning the inaugural Iowa race. We were both wrong with our picks. Next week, Loudon, New Hampshire, 301 laps, 318 miles. We may have a special guest on next Sunday night.
Oh,
maybe. Hopefully he gets to make it on. It'll only be his second race he's ever watched. So he will have great questions for us to answer. So it'll probably be a little bit of a longer episode. No skin off our nose. We don't mind talking NASCAR for a while.
And I don't know if I remember who won last year, and I'm afraid to pick that person.
Who won last year?
Who do you think? My
Bubba
man.
Wallace?
Nope, my
Chase?
Man. Martin Truex.
Oh,
Nope.
Martin.
Yeah, he won last year. I don't know if I want to go with that again. Yeah,
I might take him.
You can take him. I took him 2 weeks ago. You can take a Martin this week.
I might have to take Joey again, man. That car, that team's found it. They just got to finish it. But I hate picking him because I feel like if I pick him, I'm gonna jinx him. So, but yeah, next week, June 23rd, it's the USA Today 301. It's for the laps, 301 laps. Tonight was 350 laps. It was only 306 miles. Since I feel like I got to stay on this now because of.
Oh God! Just because it was Sonoma.
No, not Sonoma. What race did I get up? Oh, it was the Coca-Cola 600.
Oh yeah, Coca-Cola. That one too.
373. That's why I feel like I got to say this now. It's like our running little joke. If you don't know, guys, go back and watch our Coca-Cola 600 coverage. But yeah, we got New Hampshire next, and then we got Nashville. I'm kind of excited about Nashville. I don't know why. Probably because there'll be a bunch of country music, and they'll do some kind of country western theme to it. I'm sure because it's Nashville. But man, yeah, next Sunday night we'll be here at 9:00. Race starts at 2:30 Eastern time. We even may go a little earlier. I don't know. We'll find out. But you guys make sure you check the YouTube, check the Facebook, check the X, and we will be here. Aaron, do you got any closing thoughts about the Iowa Corn 350?
Yeah, pretty much. I agree with you. Or it should have like somehow 2 races within the track schedule. I thought it was a really awesome super speedway short track. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was actually one of the best races so far this year, if not it's top 3. And that's kind of it for Iowa. And just kind of to throw it out there for my closing remarks, make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow Variety Sports Network, like this show. We've been getting actually pretty good views and some likes. Let's just keep it going. Let's just keep it going. Just trying to talk some race here, some NASCAR, any type of racing. And again, if you're in the live chat when we pop up, hit the bell button. So that way you know when we go on. So you can comment in the live stream. We answer all of it, as you saw today. With shout out to Logan Stone and CPNY Sports. They commented on it. We put it up there. So don't be afraid to put out the comments on there. And it is June. So anyone that's watching this, it is Men's Mental Health Month, and you matter.
You do matter. And it's Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, all the grandpas, all the uncles, all the men who have stepped up and played dad for somebody who didn't have a dad, all the coaches out there who have coached a kid who didn't have a father and you made a difference in his life. Happy Father's Day to all you guys. Keep up the good work. I mean, that's an important thing, man. We try not to get on the emotional sensitive side out here. But Father's Day is important. Men are important. It's important to have good role models out there. I don't care what anybody says. You're never going to change my mind on that. But again, great race today. We look forward to it. Again, I want to give a slow clap to Rusty Wallace for this track design and NASCAR for finally getting the Cup Series out there. I don't know what took you guys so long. The track's been there for 20 years. And you guys took way too long to get the Cup Series there. And I hope that we see this race every single year as a night race and get us a day race and put it out there twice. I'm sure we can get rid of the Chicago street race or one of the other road tracks, and we can have good super speed short track racing. But
and it's sold out in like hours, they said.
It's sold out within the first 24 hours.
Yeah.
And people are there camping all weekend. So they can do it, guys. The fan base is there. It's great racing, and it's only going to get better the more the cars go there. On that note, for Aaron, for myself, thanks for coming on, spending some time on your evening, on your Father's Day evening with us. And if you didn't catch the show live, again, leave some comments in the section. We'll go back, review them, try to answer any questions. Subscribe, like, share, tell your friends about us. And y'all have a fantastic week. We'll see you next Sunday night.